Tell us, what is it that you do today?
Yeah, well, I'm the co-founder of P&B Companies, what we call ourselves, and we are the owners and creatives behind Mais Tacos, Good Burger, Luma's Cakes, Spread Catering, so multi-brand portfolio.
F&B is absolutely crazy. There are crazy people join it, or it makes people crazy. I don't think we will ever know.
I think it's definitely a combination of the two. Come from a family of entrepreneurs, hustlers that was what I grew up around. Failing, succeeding. And B's just, it's a whale of its own. You're giving it the 10 out of 10 for whoever the client is, whatever the activation is, whatever the collaboration is. That is business karma, because it's that reputation, it's going to compound and it's going to be your positive business karma. Because at the end of the day, business is sales. If you really sit down and understand, you're constantly trying to sell yourself in different ways, whether it's as a founder, whether it's as a product, a service.
If you are talking to not only an aspiring restaurateur, but like a small restaurateur today, what will you say to that entrepreneur today?
What's your goal, right?
Hi, welcome to Restrocast. Today, my guest is founder of a beloved Dubai brand, homegrown concept, bootstrapped company run by Luma and Haider. I have Luma on the pod today. It was an absolutely fun conversation. It almost felt like Luma is my spirit animal. But you should watch this, because this conversation will tell you about the true journey of a restaurateur as well as an entrepreneur in the world. Luma's reflections, her actions will actually, tell you that she's a go-getter, she's a taskmaster, she's a high caliber performer. But at the same time, you will see that she's introspective. She reflects on what she's doing right, what she's doing wrong. She doubles down on, what works for her, cuts down what doesn't work. True qualities of what an entrepreneur should have. You'll also hear a lot of things that entrepreneurs wonder at times. Should we raise outside funds? Should we work with our own capital? Is it okay to be small? What does it mean, to go big? What is the trade-off? And I think in my conversation of Luma's last 5-6 years of journey, I realized that she's a grounded entrepreneur who loves her customers, who loves her product, who gives it all she has, and is very intentional, about it. Such brands they take time to come out in the world and make their name, but when they do, there is no looking back from there. Luma's journey is inspirational. Keep watching. Welcome to Restrocast. Luma, welcome to Restrocast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tell us, what is it that you do today, and then we'll, get into the real conversation.
Yeah, well, I'm the co-founder of P&B Companies, what we call ourselves, and we are the owners and creatives behind Mais Tacos, Good Burger, Luma's Cakes, Spread Catering, so multi-brand portfolio.
F&B is absolutely crazy. And, whether crazy people join it or it makes people crazy, I don't think we will ever know. What do you think? Which part are you?
That's really good. I think it's definitely a combination of the two. Yeah, I think you have to be a little bit crazy to be an entrepreneur, or to want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's a bigger umbrella. Like that,
right?
that's definitely crazy. And then I think F&B is like a different roller coaster.
Then you get into F&B and you're like, I thought I had an idea, and I don't. For me, I've been an entrepreneur, way before I started Mais. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, hustlers that, that was what I grew up around. Failing, succeeding. But yeah, F&B is just, it's a whale of its own. It's crazy.
Are you somebody who was just passionate about food? What was your reason to jump into F&B? I believe that people come in it accidentally.
Yeah.
Was it an accident? Was it a thought through thing?
I mean, for me, when I look back at that and think, sometimes you're constantly having pinch me moments. Like, how am I even doing this? Because, I graduated in business. I graduated in finance. I worked in that for a very, very long time. Did I ever think I would be a chef or own a food truck, let alone 5 kitchens, running 5 kitchens across multiple brands? Absolutely not. But Dubai is the land for me of dreams, and I really believe that. Even coming from the States, where people think that you go there and you make it big and stuff. Nah, that's not really true. But
so how did you fall into this?
I've always wanted to be a chef from when I was very little. I've always been obsessed with food, obsessed with coming home, running home. This is a memory that was every day for me, running home and wondering what my mom had made for us for our early dinner compared to all the white people we were around. Like, she would be cooking for us and we would have that early dinner, not the 6 p.m. dinner, the 4 o'clock dinner, waiting and just so excited. Like, what is it going to be? My mom's an incredible cook, mostly Palestinian food. So that is very core memories for me. But when I asked my mom, please, I really want to go to culinary school. There was one actually nearby in the suburbs in Chicago where we grew up. And even I remember they came to the school that I was at and they did a presentation and everything. But no, brown people, we don't have kids that go to culinary school. You got to be an engineer, you got to be a doctor, you got to be something else. But a chef back then, no, right? I'm sure you heard that before. But eventually when I moved out to Dubai on my own after uni and living in Jordan for a year and everything, I had to learn how to cook all by myself. Because, when you're in uni and you're a teen and you have the most amazing chef as a mom, you're not really allowed in the kitchen, So I learned over Skype. I learned everything over Skype, all of her recipes, all of her secrets. I remember I was in like this apartment when I moved to Dubai like 16 years ago, and I was we all had rooms, we were sharing. And I remember like waiting for them to all go to sleep so I can have the kitchen on my own, and like my laptop is open and I'm Skyping my mom, learning how to make ma'loube or learning how to make, potato bed, which is like eggs and potatoes, this Palestinian breakfast we have every morning. And I grew that love being a little single Pringle on my own in Dubai. I grew that love of cooking and I became a really good cook for my friends. And then I met Haidar, my husband and my partner, and he's this born in the UAE, raised in Dubai guy who he's watched the city literally become one of the most, prime destinations in the world. In his whole life, that's what it was. Imagine. And
I actually do wonder at times, people who were born raised in UAE or especially who are born raised in Dubai, what's their perspective on what's happening?
To them, this is normal. They think this is reality. They believe, for the most part, the ones that I met, anything is possible. They're just these kids with they're not kids anymore, right? They're grown adults and men.
I hear you, trust me.
Yeah, but with twinkles in their eyes. And this is the best way to describe Haidar. I met him as this Renaissance man that wasn't overly spoiled, nothing. Like, his dad hustled. His dad's been here. My in-laws have been here for 50 years. They built a dynamic, evolving, impressive architecture firm. Now that's one of the biggest in the region. And he did that from nothing, my father-in-law. Let's just be clear. He didn't have a partner that was somebody's somebody, And
we're also talking about 50 years back, right? So, there's literally nothing in this region.
Yeah. And so he saw his dad hustle and whatever, but obviously, we're parents, right? We know what it's like to work really hard and give your kids a better life. So I believe that these Dubai UAE kids fell into that, which is a blessing. I always tell my mom, why the hell didn't you guys come here? Why'd you go to America? And I don't know how much time you spend with Dubai families here, but, the parents work very, very hard to give their kids a quite elaborate life when it comes to, I'm talking about like activities and linguistics and play dates that involve the most, multifaceted people. This is very much Dubai. So imagine that's how you grew up as well. And I believe that leads you to truly in your soul believe that I do deserve the best. And I'm going to go out after my dreams, whether that means being a DJ, whether that means being a skydiver, whether that means being the best wakeboarder, whether that means being the best chef. These hobbies that really allow you to not only be like athletic, but allow you to be a creative. And I think at the heart of any entrepreneur, creativity is one of the things that is what actually allows you to scale and
100%.
to continue. I don't think many people talk about that, but one of the things I learned about being in this role is how creative I am.
100%.
I'm not just a hustler and a salesperson. I'm so creative. And that's what I had to hone into and realize that that's my strengths. And having Haidar, to answer your question, having Haidar really inspire that in me and allow me to feel like you're not just this hustler girl that's been, killing it from Chicago, that's Palestinian. No, you can take sabbatical or not take sabbatical, but go to culinary school on the weekend. You can do that. And that's where it started. And I hated culinary school. I hated it. The pastry part kind of just, I'm somebody who is like very high performing. And when you have to sit in a kitchen and make croissants for 10 hours in this super commercial space, and you have to do that for like 6 months out of your education, I'm just like, no.
But did culinary school bring some structure to your, talent?
Oh my gosh, 100%. Costing and P&Ls and learning about basic hygiene. And these are the things that are really important to also running a kitchen, whether it's a cloud kitchen or whether it's a at-home pop-up that you're working on. You need to know these fundamentals. Like, if you don't know your food costing, like, let's go back 9 years. I'm not talking about now, where I'm very familiar with the P&L, or I'm very familiar with the importance of a measurable of salt not salt, but like a measurable of chipotle that I import from Mexico or I grind myself is going to keep me in the green or the red with this. It's going to green light a recipe or not. Imagine not knowing that 9 years ago and not knowing what my profitability is going to be on an item, let alone my month.
But right? How many restaurateurs in the industry? And I'm not talking about Dubai.
I know a few, unfortunately.
No, I'm saying not only in Dubai, across the world. How many restaurateurs have zero idea what's happening at the P&L level, what's happening at the ingredient level, in fact, what's happening at the general efficiency, right? So that's not, I will not take that for granted. So if you know that today, that also speaks, a lot about.
Before we're coming in, I was just messaging a supplier, still messaging me, even though I have a purchasing manager and I have 100, chefs. He's like, Luma, oh my God, I have this amazing cotija cheese. I just imported it, from our last cargo because they do sampling of Mexican ingredients. And we're one of the oldest Mexican brands that started 10 years ago. So these suppliers, they hop to every, Tom, Dick, and Harry, but they still remember you. And I'm sitting right away and I'm messaging my purchasing guy. I'm like, chef, what was the last batch of cotija you bought? How was the quality? Send me a picture. And you saying that, I can't imagine it any other way. I know one day, this is not healthy, but as the decision maker, whether it be the executive chef or the CEO or whatever, the ingredients are what matter to me. So I can't imagine it being another way.
The way you said that, I know that it's unhealthy and it's not sustainable. I detest that so much.
I was just going to say,
I don't know why world is telling all entrepreneurs that, hustling is bad, being in control is bad, being detail-oriented is bad, or you cannot poke your nose in everything. No, you need to poke your nose in everything. Running your business in a structured way where day-to-day does not get hampered because of you is important. But building it, growing it, the creativity part, you need to have your nose and fingers and nails in almost everything. That is not optional. That is how.
But don't you think that is also strategic as a CEO?
Yep.
So we
It is.
can drown out the noise of these, every person, whether it's on TikTok or this magazine or whatever, or podcast telling you that is so unhealthy. Why are you still involved in purchasing? Why are you still setting up like one of the things I get a lot, is why are you still setting up catering setups? I was like, it's my first time working with Emirates Airlines. You better believe your ass I'm going to be there.
Nice. Great flex, Lou. That's awesome.
But I still get that feedback. Like, are you seriously still doing that 9 years later? And I was like, well, 9 years ago, I wasn't working with Emirates, and I wasn't working with, I don't know, Bloomberg News. And I wasn't working with, listen, I'm not flexing. I have gotten to a point where, I was crying the other day to my team, hugging them, crying, realizing this massive milestone, where in that week, we're looking at the calendar, all of the bookings that we have. And I see, I'm not going to flex, but the biggest names in the world are on my calendar for this week. And I book them. I'm not saying that no one else can book them. Of course they can. But if that's not strategic in being the CEO of this company, I don't know what the hell is.
I'm telling you, anybody who tells anybody else that, oh, why are you still involved, or, why do you still do it yourself, or, why are you caring about it so much, etc. I don't think they have ever scaled a business, because I can tell you that legit, there are trillionaires. World has moved on to trillion. There are trillionaires in Valley right now who are pulling off 18-hour days. And it has nothing to do with 18 hours, 12 hours, or 8 hours. The point is that they enjoy what they're doing. They're really passionate about it. They are the brains behind it. They bring the soul and the passion to the game. Structure is so less. It is important, but that's it. It should be there, but the part that you are saying has to come from you, has to come from the founder. I don't think there is any other way.
Listen, if we had other partners, like if you actually look at when, because I worked in the tech world for a very long time, and I worked in a lot of startups that got acquired, and it's where I learned most of what it means to start a bootstrapped business. You look at it, you have your CEO, you have your CMO, you have your CTO, obviously, if it's tech. And that's from the get-go, right? That's how they bootstrapped and became launched. And they took, a couple million dirhams or dollars, and, they invested in this way and that way. But when you look at F&B, the margins, right? It's not the same as every single industry. And you can't afford a COO off the bat. Luckily, I had my husband and me, and I had all that business founding experience, let's call it. Okay, I like to speak in layman terms. And I brought all of that to the table. We did work with a consultancy very early on. So some of the technical bits that you don't have access to if you didn't start F&B, which it's as simple as suppliers, right? I think that the suppliers that I've acquired in the last 9 years have made a massive impact on our consistency, which I think is one of our biggest pillars, our most important pillars. So if you don't have those people from the beginning, you have to continue hustling. And that hustling mentality, those are your chromosomes.
And I think that also brings you to the, I'm sure the names that you're talking about, including, catering for or working with Emirates Airlines, that is a part of hustle. I'm sure that's serendipity plus hustle. I mean, serendipity hits people when you're hustling.
Yeah.
If you're not at the right place, right time, if you're not hustling for it, I don't think it'll hit you.
Yeah.
I can tell you, for me, luck keeps tracking all the time. But that is because we hustle so hard.
Is it luck or is it reputation?
Well, I don't use this word luck at all.
Same.
But what I mean by that is, I'm just giving a nuance on, I personally believe that we hustle so hard. We are in so many rooms. We are in so many places that there is an opportunity that is going to hit us beyond plan all the time.
I call it business karma.
Not bad.
So I have a theory for it, and I do believe business karma looks so different across your blueprint, right? So business karma is, for me, this is my theory, is you do somebody bad in business karma is going to get you. I also believe, which is one of our biggest pillars, again, is the consistency and the quality. Business karma is delivering the most amazing bespoke setups, whether it's at a workshop, whether it's at Emirates booked you for catering, whether it's delivering the same lunch setup to ICD Brookfield or Bloomberg News twice a month, whether it's doing a pop-up. Today we're at AUS in Sharjah for National Day. You're giving it the 10 out of 10 for whoever the client is, whatever the activation is, whatever the collaboration is, whatever the new special is. And that is business karma, because it's that reputation
is going to compound.
It's going to compound, and it's going to be your positive business karma. It's going to continuously bring you amazing ROI. And I believe that with landing clients like Bloomberg over and over and over again, or finally booking Emirates Airlines. And I do believe that that's because the word of mouth that has, returned and come back around is finally paying back.
That is beautiful. I completely,
thank you.
Like, plus 100 to your business karma theory. I'm going to use it.
Please.
Somewhere else, right?
Please, we should all use it.
Yeah, let's trademark that, right?
Yeah.
It was said,
business karma.
Yeah, it was said first time on Restrocast. No, I think my side, my theory of, or rather my version of this is, I so agree with you. My version of this is, when we do demos, right? We do large enterprise tech. So we are going to do these. Our demos are going to take a lot. For example, a Starbucks board in a certain country wants to look at the demo, and it's going to be a 3.5 hour, 5 times. So it's like a 16-hour demo, in a way. You're talking to 12, 13, 14, 18 different people in that org. And you may or may not land the deal for 20,000 reasons in the world. Project got stalled, you didn't make the cut, they are not convinced, something else happens, war happens, some political unrest, 20,000 reasons. One thing that we, one of the reasons we, got wherever we got is we made sure we call our demos magic shows.
Ooh.
We got here by making sure that, no matter whether we get the deal or not, our demo, our effort in that demo, knowing the client, knowing their configs, knowing their menu, making sure that we understand their pain point, the research, the depth. By the time we get into the room, we are speaking their language to the point that we know that these 18 people who are watching, they're gonna remember us. And over the next couple of years, we're gonna get calls.
Yeah, you learned them.
And most of the business that we actually get comes from there, where we'll run a deal with somebody for like 6 months, and deal may or may not happen.
100%.
But because of that, whoever saw us in that room, in their new role, in their new job, whether it's a CEO, they remember, they'll give us a call directly and they'll say, guys, I saw you there, we couldn't do it that time. Come, let's
I learned
do this.
that early on in one of the tech companies that I worked in when I was one of the founders, and one of their values was surprise and delight. And that is a very big sales, like you hear that in other words, in boiler room type companies, right? And I use that now in every single aspect of my business. For example, this guy booked us for his baby shower last week. I'm not going to give away all my secrets, but go ahead. No, I wish more people did this, because appreciating business is also very important. Appreciating that a business like a big coffee brand is going to invest in, I know you're not little, but little old you. I mean, I think that's good that you do that. You humble yourself and appreciate that, right? But anyways, listen, it wasn't like a 50,000 dirham booking for 30 people. No, it was much less than that. But it was just such a lovely experience. And I created a formula or an algorithm where if some clients reach X amount of dirhams, I want to surprise them. I want to say thank you. I have the power of doing that. And allowing myself to have the power of doing that is also very impactful for me and my staff. So I messaged, to get my hope everything was well kind of thing. And, I just want to say thank you. And is somebody going to be home today? And I sent a gift. And it was kind of like a hamper of things, like whether it's something from our whether it's, small batch hot sauce or flowers or chocolates. I just want to say thanks. And, he called me later on and he was like, oh my God, I just received whatever. And he said, I have been here for 15 years and you don't know me. Turns out he's like this massive entrepreneur who owns really creative agencies. And he goes, I have never had anyone say thank you to me for spending with them in a way like this. Sometimes, he'll drop the big luxury brand name. He goes, sometimes they send me flowers or something because I bought something for my wife. But a caterer, like why would? And I said, because I'm genuinely grateful. I'm genuinely grateful for your business. I really am. I'm saying this and I mean it. I am so grateful that you chose me. And I don't think that's living in small mind mentality. I think that is surprise and delight. And I don't know how much you know about us. We do zero marketing, like as in budget wise. We don't spend on marketing.
Wow.
Not commercial marketing.
I understand.
We use a little bit of, not a little bit. My husband would argue it's quite a lot of F&B technology now, like brands like Revly and these brands that have APIs with aggregators. So that type of back end marketing we are dabbling into in the last 6 months. But in terms of like ads and influencer, we've never paid an influencer in our life. We don't do those kinds of things.
Sorry, influencers, but go on.
Yeah. Listen, whatever. Online marketing, we don't do it. Okay. We tried. I really tried.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we all did, but we've, early on, being a bootstrapped company for so long, we learned there's
But you know what? I think one thing that which is not so surprising, but I think needs to be pointed out is the fact that your restaurant is running 10 years. You're 10 years in running in a city like Dubai, right? So I personally believe that if you were running basis marketing, you won't cross year 3.
No.
Or maybe, I don't know if year 5 will ever happen.
Yeah. Especially through lockdown, through COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had just opened JLT, our first brick and mortar, first time we opened a restaurant. When lockdown happened, I was 6 months pregnant painting when the rumors started about COVID, I was like 6 months pregnant painting the walls because we didn't have any money. We got this like shitty location in JLT in one of the worst. Sorry, can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, please swear.
Okay. Please swear more. On one of these rundown buildings. But JLT was where it was at. And like everybody was opening in JLT. And it came. And I will never forget. I've said this on podcasts. I've said this on interviews because it was a real moment where Haidar calls me and he goes like, do you see that we just opened? And I go and I'm crying and I'm like, how is this happening to us? We're so unlucky, And then he saw me falling apart and I just stopped and I said, it's a freaking pandemic. No one could have seen this coming. We tried. Then I had Ayla. Ayla was born. I was in the hospital for 5 weeks because my water broke and so I had 30 weeks, my water broke and I have videos and all these pictures and Haidar's like, you were working the whole time. I was like, it's my first time opening a restaurant. That would be weird if I wasn't working while I was on bed rest in City Hospital for 5 weeks. And thank God she stayed in for that long. And they tried to send me home a few times, but I was moving too much, so they had to bring me back. And my doctor was so kind, and she goes, I heard like the nurses are telling me, on the ward that you're really opening a restaurant this week. And I said, please, I beg you, Dr. Sant, please, can I go home? Can I go just open the restaurant and come back? Can I just go? And she goes, yeah. And I said, are you serious? And she goes, yeah, of course. Like, I can't imagine like opening a business for the first time, like my own clinic, and I'm not there. Go.
Damn.
And she let me go, and it was so cool. And I was crying the whole entire time, and I put on makeup and my hair was up, I remember, and I had a Maiz jeans jacket because I'm remembering the picture. And I remember my friend Bella was there and Cash was there. I remember the people that came, and it was 2 hours. I started getting dizzy and I felt pressure, and I was like, I think I should go. He's like, get the hell out of here. I told you shouldn't be here.
And that was the opening day?
That was the opening day, yeah. The next morning, the water had completely depleted, and they said, we need to induce you. Actually, they induced me that night, and Isla came at 10 a.m. the next day. So Mai's first location was born the day before Isla was born, which was September 11th, and she came September 12th. And in my labor, it was a 22-hour labor. I was working the whole time. My laptop was open. In the video that Haidar made, like, you could see me on my laptop watching my first ever restaurant, my opening day of my first restaurant. Are you bonkers?
We need footage of that.
Of course, I'll give it to you.
That is so cool.
And he's like asking me, what are you doing? And I'm like, I feel weird. And I'm just like this because you're under, anesthesia. So yeah, that's what started it. And that's how it kicked off. Traumatic. So when he said that on the phone, I said, well, yeah, no one's ever been through a pandemic. It's okay. We had a great run. We're going to lose, I think, 700,000 dirhams because we bought a restaurant. So we bought what was already there.
Oh, okay. That was a okay.
Yeah.
You didn't lose that money, but that was a possibility.
Yeah, we were going to lose it. It's a pandemic. It's lockdown. The government had shut us down for only, I think, a few weeks because, Dubai is so resilient.
Dubai handled pandemic very, very well. I mean, we work in so many countries that through pandemic, we could clearly see which country is doing what. Yeah. Because we were restaurants were getting affected directly and we were the indirect.
Of course.
Yeah, so we were as screwed as anybody else, just that we were so diversified geographically that it just helped. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, as a business, if we were focused on like 1 or 2 or 3 countries, we were screwed, 100% screwed.
We pivoted quickly, whether it's the first steps of getting on the face of the camera and saying, we're homegrown, we're a family business. I remember Time Out had reached out. They wanted to support by creating vouchers for people to pre-purchase so they can use it when we open back up, which I thought was so adorable. And people did buy. But
you had your cloud kitchen before, right?
No, it's just JLT at this stage.
Oh, this was the first time?
This is the first, our first restaurant was open a few months before lockdown.
Wow, so how long has
we had before then, the 2.5 years before then, there was the first year, which was the food truck. Then there was a pop-up at Dar Wasil, which now is like a pop-in mall, turning over big numbers, big brands. But we were the first ones to move in. There was a Saudi-owned food hall, one of the first of its kind, too early, unfortunately, where they incubated brands. And that's where Kishmish was born as well. If you know Kishmish, founded by Iman and her family, which is one of, to me, I'm glad it's not commercial like Maiz, and it was killing it from early on with turning over massive revenue and names as well. People were not getting paid to go there, and they were sheikhs and massive celebrities because the food is till now unreal. One of my no-brainer, shout out Kishmish, restaurants.
I've heard of them. I've never been there.
Yeah, amazing Afghani food, amazing. Homegrown, very family, just like us, and us. We did it for 6 months. We didn't profit, okay? But it made us realize, whoa, we can open a restaurant. It was really tiny. It was less than 1,000 square feet. It was, I think, 700 square feet. The kitchen was like it would have looked like what a food hall would be, but it had a pretty good dining space that fit 30 packs. So it was there every single day, just cleaning the tables, waiting for the customers to come in. We had like the worst location. It had a wall between all the other guys. But during that time, Pinza came in at one point. Sugar Moo came in as well for a little bit of time, and we stayed. They ended up going, and we all are, we had different trajectories, of course, but it was a great case study for us.
We'll go back to your early years, right? You dropped a few points in between startups, tech. You were a co-founder. You worked in various different companies. Take me to your early years. You grew up in Chicago, and what was the trajectory from there?
I grew up in Chicago. My parents were Palestinians, Jordanians, that when they got kicked out of Palestine, both sides of the family had gone to Jordan. My dad's side, my dad's from Jerusalem, my mom's from Ramle. So they met there. And then my parents had us way too early. So my sister was born, and I was the lovely accident that was born a year later. And when I was 6 months, my dad had already gone to Chicago because some of his family was there. So they immigrated to Chicago. They took me and my sister. And then they also had my brothers there. So I'm 1 out of 4, middle child. And it was the most amazing childhood. Like I said, I grew up amongst hustling entrepreneurs, Palestinian entrepreneurs in a very Arab community. They call Chicago Little Palestine because the most population of Palestinians is in America is inside of Chicago. People always say, I thought it was Michigan. No, Michigan has a lot of Arabs, but most of the Palestinians.
I thought that was West Coast.
No.
Really?
Listen, we're everywhere, right?
Yeah, I know.
We're people that have been expelled
but I mean, the amount of Arabs that I, come across in San Diego, LA, all that entire West Belt, I never thought Chicago had the largest population.
I know. Nobody thinks about it. But a lot of Palestinians from different parts of Palestine knew somebody that was in Chicago. So just imagine that. Like when you look at an expelled population, where are they going to go? They're going to go where it feels safe, right? So like for me, I knew when people ask me always in Dubai when I'm amongst, how do you know so many people from different parts of Palestine? And I say, because I met so many of them, not the Jordanian ones, the ones that either immigrated or got expelled from Palestine, which I never had been exposed to because my parents were expelled to Jordan. So, it was just the loveliest, like literally the only way I can describe it is it felt like I was in Palestine, which feels different, right? Because that's how we were raised. So it was a very interesting upbringing. It was lovely, but it was very conservative and, how immigrants...
While still in Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, listen, brown people that move to the West are very nervous that their children are going to become too westernized, which to some part, I could see that in my nieces and nephews now. But no, not from Palestinians and Asians that are first generation.
No, but that's true for all brown immigrants. I mean, I know people in U.S. Indian families who migrated, 50 years back, and I mean they're stuck in time.
Yeah.
They're so stuck in time that it's just amazing. Like some of them are more retro Indians than the real, like the Indians of today. And
of course.
And I mean, there have been times when I run into some Indian family in Bay Area in California, and when I saw them how they're conducting everything, I was like, where did you learn all this from? I'm like, oh, this is our tradition. I said, guys, we have moved on.
We have evolved.
We didn't give you the memo, but
yeah, and it did affect some of my life, but for the most part, being Palestinian for me is definitely an identity. For me, it is my identity because of our story and because of our trauma and because of our neglect by the world. Like, it does force you to kind of prove yourself constantly and try to find a place to fit in, because the truth of the matter is I don't have a home, right? Like, even as an expat amongst, like, the other day, my husband's like, why do you keep asking people that? How does it feel to have a country? I was like, because I think I finally grew up and realized you guys don't appreciate your countries, and
do you feel that that's what you're saying is crazy?
yeah, I do feel
you
it.
feel that dissonance of
Recently, now I feel it. Yeah, I know I don't have a home. That's the truth, right? It's a fact. I'm from Palestine and I cannot go to Palestine. I'm not allowed.
But that's a story, right?
I mean,
I
don't have a passport to my country. I can't go visit my country.
No, okay. I'm only saying for Luma, who was 6 months old when she was brought to US and grew up in US, right? So for you, not having a country is just a story.
For me, I do not feel like I ever felt at home in America because of my identity. Like, we've been protesting since I was 3 years old peacefully. My parents raised us in such, I'm so grateful that my dad, he died a few years ago, God rest his soul, but my mom is the one who actually took us to the protests. I remember, like, the mosque would organize these buses. It was so beautiful, the way that they educated us about who we are. It wasn't forced down our throats. It was, you are Palestinian. I need to tell you this. You need to know you're not Jordanian. You're not American. And sure, people immigrate to other countries to give their children better lives, but that doesn't mean that 100% I wouldn't be living in Palestine right now. And that's just the truth of the matter. Like, you live in India, right? You have a choice that you get to live in India. I don't have that choice. That choice has been taken away from me. So there was, again, we're going to keep going back in Luma's history, but there was a time where it was during Real Palestine, the Palestinian Film Festival, done by Cinema Akil, where I was invited to take over a food truck. And this was after October 7th, and where it also allowed us all to wake up and brand our businesses as Palestinian owned. Although I've been saying I was a Palestinian in every interview forever. I don't say I'm American because I'm Palestinian. And we went and we took the bus and we put like watermelons on it and the Palestinian flag. And I made a t-shirt by this beautiful artist called Diala. She did it really quickly. And it was maize, and we still sell it. Maize in the truck, the same truck, in front of, like, the backdrop was an ocean, and it was on a beach in Jaffa, which Jaffa's on the coast. And it was imagining maize in Palestine. Like, I'm still the same person. I grew up with Mexican cousins, and Mexican food influenced my life and who I am. And I'm obsessed with salsa. Like, I've been eating it since I was 4.
Okay, I need to visit.
Yeah.
Hot sauce and salsa.
I'm sending you my hot sauces today, so you're gonna take them home with you.
I can tell you, I'm the guy who will actually keep pouring hot sauces.
Yeah, you're that
of all
guy.
types, and I'll keep licking, and with every last lick, I'll be like, I should stop now.
Yeah.
But then like a little some, like one drop.
It's like your drink, your shot. You love it, yeah. And I allowed myself to see maize in Palestine, and that's a dream. Like, can you imagine? Like, I'm in the streets of Jerusalem and I have a kiosk there selling birria tacos. Like, why the hell not? And I'm just taking it at face value. You're the person in front of me right now. You could do that in India right now. You can take your baby and go and launch it in this city and that city. So that's why, for me, I do feel like a big part of who I am is because I am Palestinian. And that resistance, and that it's totally normal to fail. I have so many businesses that failed. I have ideas that failed, and I don't give a shit. You bounce back. It's cool. I actually would get more emotional over losing a staff member that I just invested a year in versus if I have to close down Luma's Cakes for 6 months. Like, I don't give a shit. Business is business. But, that resistance comes from everything that I've seen as a Palestinian, everything that's truth for us.
Being in Dubai, I see that. Like, for example, you talked about your husband grew up here, and I see a lot of dissonance and a lot of like this geographical dissonance. What is their land? Which is their country? A lot of kids. I remember I was meeting somebody, my friend's fiance, who grew up here, and when I asked her, so where are you from, and she fumbled, and then she triangulated it in her head and said, well, I mean, of course I'm an Indian. I said, yeah, I can see that, but she said, oh, I was born and raised here, but we are from Mumbai, which is large city in India. And I looked at my friend, I was like, and she's like, oh, but I said, but your accent is I actually studied in London. So I said, okay. And then I asked her, I said, are you confused about, who are you and where you are? She said, like, can you hear, did you see that? I said, yes, I see it. I see it quite stark. So is that, I understand the pain,
before.
As a Palestinian, I see the pain, right? With what is going on in the world. But on the other side, personally, does that still, is that still feeding into that restlessness, that hustle?
100%. It feeds into it. But to answer your question, of course it feeds into it. After October 7th, even more. Like, I went and designed posters for Palestine. That is my form of resistance. You know what I mean? I did visit Palestine posters. Again, keeping the narrative open that we will get our home back. But can I answer you that I don't feel like I have a home in where I am? Yes, I do feel like I have a home in where I am. I've been here for 17 years. Oh, sorry, not 17 years, 15 years. And I have never felt more safe, more seen, and more successful than I have felt being in Dubai. And my businesses are here. My children were born here. I met my amazing husband and his extended family here. I just, after my dad passed away, moved out my mom and my brother here. That's how safe I feel versus like going to Jordan. I tried to live there a year and it was too like claustrophobic for me. And I just didn't fit in. I was this American, not Arab, Palestinian, not Jordanian person.
Do you worry about that if you ever go, and that's the second part, right? If you go back to Palestine, let's say, and you settle or try to settle there, you will feel a reverse dissonance where people will see you as who are you, and you're not Palestinian, you're just your identity is that, but you're not.
Yeah, I think that the day when it comes, and I hope it's in our lifetime, where we're allowed to go back to our homes. I can visit my grandma's home. I can visit my aunt's homes. I think that will be a different, very utopic life anyways. Like, it would be very different. And I think that it would be like an unimaginable sensation for both sides. So, but I do have a lot of friends that still, they're from Nablus, for example, and they go to Nablus all the time. And they moved to Dubai from Nablus. And I'm like, how could you leave, you asshole? And they're like, oh, ungrateful. Don't forget, it's very close. The West Bank, like, don't forget this, don't forget that, like from different parts of Palestine. And I'm just like, okay, but they did their time and they impacted, Palestine, and they can go back. And a lot of them did go back, by the way. Like, I have a friend that just moved back to Jerusalem after 4 years of living here, and she's like, screw this. I want my roots there. I don't want to be here. As hard as it is, as terrible as it is for Palestinians in Jerusalem, for example. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when that happens. But of course, listen, when you're so sad, I can never live in America again after living here. I can never, like, screw that life.
Tell me why.
Oh my gosh, how long do you have? But
give me a TLDR.
One of the things is the ignorance that we were in, the bubble that people say you're in a bubble in Dubai. I would take this bubble over the Western bubble, which is very, very different than places like Australia and London, because all you see there, like for us, we grew up in a predominantly Arab community. So we were exposed to that culture. Great, amazing. There were some Indians, very little Indians, very little. There was Albanians. Again, those are very still Eastern European kind of people. So I never met a Nepali. I never met a Sri Lankan. I never met a Filipino. I never met an African, a real African immigrant. I never met that. And I remember my first year of living here feeling like, holy shit, where were we? Oh my God. I've even been fooled. My Arab ass has been fooled. My parents didn't teach me well enough about all different parts of the world.
But how is that possible? I'm just surprised.
I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. Maybe if I grew up in the West Side, it's different. Maybe if I grew up amongst the Ivy League.
But that's surprising. I mean, if
I only saw white people and a few brown people, my friend. I'll tell you the truth. White people and a few brown people.
Wow.
Yeah. Mexicans. But then again, Mexicans are everywhere in America. So are they considered a cultural education or part of the DNA? To me, I feel like Mexicans are just as part of America as any white person should be. Okay, numbers are numbers, data is data. Whether they accept them or they don't accept them, that's another debate we can talk about. But when you look at history, like the things that they taught us in school, and I at one point of my life we went to the best public schools. At another part we went to the worst. Depends where we were living geographically. So I would never, ever go back there. I would never subject my kids to that life. And, I'm not saying Dubai kids are going to be the best kids in the world, in terms of like how they turn out based on the ecosystems that we have. But that's your duty as a parent anyways, wherever you are in the world. But my biggest concern for my children and whether they are brought up in an entrepreneurial environment is about their morals, their ethics, and what they know about the real world and real news.
You grew up in Chicago, went to uni there. Then, how was your career path? Take me through your career path.
I started working when I was 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad and my mom were like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, I just want to work.
What are you doing?
My first job was at the Buckle in the mall. And it was just like a shop that was selling brands, many brands inside of it. That was my first step into sales, which explains how my life unfolded. I couldn't stop talking and I was good. And that opened up all of the doors for any biz dev or sales roles or telemarketing roles that I worked in. I worked everywhere. I worked at like a Chuck E. Cheese equivalent. I worked at Abercrombie. I worked at American Eagle. I worked at California Pizza Kitchen. I worked at Chili's. I worked at a Coldwell Banker as a receptionist. I worked at a sleep clinic. I worked everywhere.
Damn.
Yeah.
And this was through the school?
From high school through university. I also graduated high school really early because I don't know if I have very, very severe ADHD or I'm just addicted to performance, or I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg. Did I get into being independent and be so obsessed with my own independence and work ethic that's why I work at the rate that I do? I don't know what it is.
ADHD, I can tell you, is a requirement for entrepreneurs. I don't think it's a disorder.
Yeah.
It's
my superpower, I say.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Anybody who's apologetic about it, I'm like, okay, you're just doing ADHD wrong. You should be grateful.
You're not using it for your advantage.
Exactly. You should be grateful if nothing else.
Yeah.
I can multitask like I can be hustling on the phone, thinking three things, doing actual work.
Yeah.
And it's superpower, right?
Yeah.
Like for normal people, that's like, dude, you're a beast.
My husband
is just ADHD.
My husband is a very high performer, but he's organized in his performance. He does not have ADHD, alhamdulillah.
Yeah. So is my wife.
So thank God, right? Imagine us with people
somebody has to be sane, right?
Somebody.
Yeah, Sakshi is like structured, one thing at a time, very, very,
One tab open at a time. I have literally right now 30 tabs open at one time. And to me, I would not have it any other way. I clean them. At the end of the day, I clean them. And I love that. It feels like a great, ADHD tick off the list. But I wasn't always working multiple jobs at once. You know, I was still an honor student. I got multiple scholarships. I'm a high performing person. I wasn't top of my class. You know, I'm not saying I was an A student, 4.0 grade point average. I was probably always tethering around a 3.5, 3.6, 3.7. But I was doing it. I was learning. I was doing what everyone was asking me to do. And I was still working. And I loved working and I loved getting money, and I didn't save jack shit out of it back then. I was just paying for my school and, you know, helping if I could. But I loved that feeling of, you know, especially the last bit before I moved is I was working at, you know, a restaurant where some nights I was making 500, I was a waitress, making $500 to $800 a night. You know, I was working in a very classy, high net area neighborhood. I think Oprah lived like maybe
in Chicago.
Yeah,
like,
in Oak Brook. Yeah,
okay. Like a Let Us Entertain You venue, or
no? It was a sports bar.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a sports bar called Champs, and it closed, and I'm so sad. And it even influenced one of the dishes I put on my E's menu, the loaded nachos, because they had the best loaded nachos I've ever had. So the ATV there, the average transaction value for lunch was back then was probably like $30 per person, which now is normal. I think you can go to, I don't know, I haven't visited America in 15 years, but you can go to, you know, a Joe or a Starbucks and you can get a coffee and whatever for $15. But back then, no way, dude, right? That inflation wasn't happening. Like, it was happy days.
Yeah, they never saw inflation. I mean, up until...
up until recently, by the way.
Yeah.
Our generations anyways. So...
Americans don't understand the concept of inflation. It hit them really hard at a conceptual. I mean, it hit them hard at a concept level first and economic level next. So, I mean, it was sadly funny.
It is, by the way. Because we've been, like, when I moved here in 2008, there was the crisis. And that was, I felt like, the first time since now that Americans are feeling it.
You know, this is so painfully funny. I was actually explaining this to an Indian, guy in India who was just confused that why are Americans crying? Like, he just couldn't wrap his head around it. He also couldn't wrap his head around another concept where he was like, how come these Americans at 65 are retiring and have a predictable money till 80, let's say, right, for next 15 years? So I basically had to explain to him. I said, okay, there's a concept of inflation. You understand that, right? He said, yes, of course. I said, they don't have it. He said, what do you mean they don't have it? I said, okay, let me put it this way. If somebody's life runs with, let's say, $2,000 a month, you just multiply it by 100 months. And here's the corpus. It's like, but, 10 years from now, that won't be $2,000. That's exactly the point. 10 years after, they are actually going to have $2,000 a month. He's like, that sounds weird. Like, dude, that's so funny.
Welcome to America.
I said, see, inflation is happening against dollar. Our currency is getting devalued. Dollar is dollar. That's 1:1. And I remember that this guy was like, mathematically, I understand, but I don't understand this.
Yeah.
Like, how is that happening?
Yeah.
And I said, an American is exactly confused about inflation right now. They're not able to wrap their head around that. Okay, wait, what's happening here? Am I going to start spending $3,000 a month now? So yeah, I mean, America is crazy that way. But what after your really part-time jobs? What after your uni?
I took a break. We went to Jordan, and I got a job there after I graduated. It was crazy, and it was just very random and unexpected, and that brought me to very fast to meeting somebody right before the crash that was like, you should go to Dubai, and that was it.
Right before the crash means the 2008-9?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
9, yeah. And you put something in my head, and that's it. I'm gonna go after it. And Jordan wasn't the place for me.
But why did you go to Jordan?
My mom wanted to go back, and she wanted to visit, and I had just finished, and I had been working all that time. Like I told you, khalas, I'm tired. So I went, and it was a big culture shock. But again, I'm somebody who likes to take risks, and likes to try different things. And it just happened, and I stayed. One
And
month
then-
led to the next, and then I ended up quickly, not even a year after, getting an offer from Bait.com, if you remember them. I think they're still kicking.
Yeah.
And they brought me to Dubai. It was August. And they were
2009.
and they were like, what the hell? Like, you shouldn't be here. I don't know who brought you here. Because they hired me in the Jordan Amman office first. And I said, well, I'm here. And they said, you're never going to hit your targets. And I hit my targets right away. I was biz dev. And then I went on from doing that for Bait for a bit to one of the heads of Bait taking me to GoNabit, which was the first group buying website in the Middle East.
Okay.
And he took me there to kind of like start the sales team. And listen, the training by Rabia Ataya and Danny Farha, those were like my first mentors in the Middle East, was so strong that those things that they taught me, which is what Dan Stewart, I remember the founder of GoNabit, had said, is that the way that Danny and Rabia did the training was so well thought out that it's ingrained in you as a biz dev salesperson. It becomes truly your blueprint for business, I feel. Because at the end of the day, business is sales. If you really sit down and understand, you're constantly trying to sell yourself in different ways, whether it's as a founder, whether it's as a product, a service, any new lines, anything you're doing, you're selling your story, you're selling your chromosomes, you're selling that in every touch of
even
business.
hiring people. Same.
Even hiring people, even firing people, even getting a new supplier, even negotiating a term. Come on, man. You're always selling your why. You're always selling your business. And I think that's why I succeeded so well in business and pivoting and having so many verticals. And all of the stuff that I had here was because of the years I spent doing what I was doing in tech.
And then what after
I was
that?
a lot of jobs after that, but very successful. I became very, very successful from coming to Dubai, living in a maid's room at 21 years old to, having saved up a lot of money to work with a VC to start a company that failed.
What was that company?
Oh God. Okay. It was called Ursum.com and Ursum, yeah, which means draw in Arabic. And theoretically, it's a beautiful idea. You work with local artists to print their work on t-shirts and you sell it. Kind of like threadless.com in the States, which I believe closed down as well.
Threadless closed down?
I think so. I believe I heard, maybe not. I hope not.
I don't know. Yeah, I do remember Threadless, but yeah.
Yeah. So
and what year was this?
2012.
So you founded
With
this
Bico
company?
Capital, yeah, with Bico.
And you raised venture capital?
No, we didn't get there yet. They invested, and I invested a lot of sweat, and we purchased a big machine, and I sat in a warehouse in El Coz. I think it was called the Green Box. Amazing owners. They let us use it as my office, and I sat by myself. Every time an order would come in, I would print it.
You print a machine?
By myself. No one was there. And after a while, I was like, screw this shit. I can't pay my rent. I hadn't slept in like a month because I was so stressed and wired. I didn't know what to do. And I was like, okay, this is what it feels like to fail for the first time.
Oh, that was first. But that was
massive fail. Yeah, massive. I'm talking about like Luma goes from being like top performer we got acquired by Living Social. GoNabit had got acquired by Living Social. So this guy takes me to do this for them. And then I fail and I feel like the biggest absolute loser. Like, you will never be an entrepreneur again. I was also 23. Why did you give me that by myself? Then I got the biggest offer you can ever imagine from a company called Amia, who, if you know Amia, they do, back then, again, super cool. I wish they would have pivoted and hired more people like me. that could have done the coolest shit because it's a data-driven company. It's essentially, back then, they would have categorized themselves as a loyalty company. So they had, if you know Nectar from Sainsbury's, the Nectar program, the Points Point, they created it.
Oh, they did it for Sainsbury?
Yeah. Nectar. In the UAE, they were Air Miles, which was a coalition program for HSBC. Sharaf DG was part of it as well, so that was the currency. Spinneys was part of it. It could have been amazing. It just, India, but the dinosaurs were there were proper dinosaurs.
It was like a loyalty tech company.
I would say data. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't call it loyalty now, but data company, tech, of course. And then, you had Aero Miles, which was for Air Canada. They had some ginormous
you joined them in sales?
Yeah, in biz dev, but a huge strategic role. And to launch, because of my background, to launch a currency for SMEs. And I did it. And no one backed me. So it was more of like I was a bootstrapped brand using the same currency inside of this dinosauric environment. And I was miserable. I was so bored. You can't put someone like me in a place like that. But I did it for 2 years.
And that was to cool your heels off from the failure, or like why?
Or go back into stability and routine and safety. But I was making so much money there. Way too much. Yeah. I still got to do cool shit. One of my biggest theories, other than the business karma theory, was my whole thing is I need to do cool shit all the time. That's one of my values in the business, is that, and I say that while I'm hiring a new amazing executive chef or a social media person or a catering manager or whatever, is let's just do cool shit together. When I was collabing 9 years before anyone was collabing, let's do cool shit. I don't have any other way of describing it. I'm not going to use some funny, let's have a creative collaboration between, no, it's cool stuff, man. Let's do stuff nobody's doing. And I wasn't doing that there. And my husband back then had encouraged me to leave. But I did, that's when I did, around that time is when I signed up to ICCA and I went to culinary school, and I was doing, my brain was allowed to like finish work and go to school.
So that is right after EMEA.
During.
Yeah,
okay. It was quite slow. Then we were planning a wedding. We got married. And I had quit a month before that. He's like, quit? Who cares? You're so bored. Just quit. I was like, what do you mean quit? I've been working since I was 15. What do you mean? I quit and I don't have anything to do. I went into consulting for a bit. I helped people with their SMEs because at that point I had already had a lot of time in the game, and it was a no-brainer for me how you set up sales decks and how you it's me, khalas, it's Luma, it's inside. I did that for like 2 or 3 clients. It was fun. It's actually really fun. Did I, now looking back at it, oh my God, I haven't talked about this in so long. Did I see that as my future? Hell no. Because if it was, I would have obsessed over it. I went on to join another small loyalty company after that as a COO. Got bored really fast, could not deal with all that masculine kind of controlling energy and space. And I wasn't able to flourish, and then went back into consulting a bit, and then started meeting consultants for F&B, and that was it.
And that's how the Cloud Kitchen, the first one was a Cloud Kitchen or a pop-up? Truck. Right. Right. I keep forgetting.
So now when you're looking at the time span in Dubai, that was around the time Salt opened up on Kite Beach.
Okay. This is what, 2017? 18?
16.
Oh, 16.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a time, I think food trucks, there was a lot of...
There was a bit of a wasta, obviously, happening on Kite Beach, which is fine. I think Salt is very deserving now, and they opened up many doors for the rest of us, and good. Thank Allah, thank you for Salt being created, because it allowed for homegrown brands to really be welcomed. Uyallah, and let that big revolution and that big community start. And I till now, like, whether I think Salt is the best burger in Dubai is not the argument. I still think it is one of the most important and amazing brands that was created out of Dubai.
That I believe so too. I mean, as an outsider, I think when I got introduced to salt first, my first reaction was that, wow, this is like a local. Like I double checked and turns out it was a local, doing this, and I was like, okay, this is phenomenal.
Dubai made it. Like if you're into F&B, yeah, you just think, holy moly! Like branding is one of the things in business, especially in F&B, that turns me on more than a sick new recipe. I have to be very honest with you. It's the first thing. It's so creative. It's so when it's done right, it's out of the box. Like when I see someone's branding, I have a window into their brain. And I think, I respect branding so much and what they put into that till now. Every pop-up they do, it's so well thought out and executed. And it's because the main fundamentals of starting a business is what they keep in the forefront of their mind with every single move they make. That to me is brilliance.
I remember the founder is Dean? No?
Reem, and I forgot the other one's name. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I mean...
Again, remember I told you I'm terrible with names.
She was with me. She was speaking alongside me at some event in 2019 I think 2019. And Kitopi had, just launched. So there was this, the cloud kitchen was the number one thing. Everybody was talking about it. This is like end of 2019. Pandemic is, nobody can imagine that what's going to happen in the next couple of months. And I remember I was in this room with a lot of restaurateurs, like local restaurateurs in Dubai. And people are talking about, so Kitobi guy is saying, Mo is talking about that, how cloud kitchens is going to be the future. And almost everybody has different opinions that, but everybody is trying to not go against delivery, right? So everybody's playing safe in that room.
Especially during COVID.
No. This is 4 months before COVID. That's what I'm saying.
Before, I'm so sorry. Okay.
This is end of 19, right?
Okay.
So while Mo is saying that, cloud kitchens is going to be the future and delivery is going to be the future, everybody else in the room is like, what is this guy talking about? But because investor money is coming to Kitopi, everybody is also kind of trying to say, yeah, I do agree that delivery, but, so everybody's doing a but. This lady, Salt lady, she takes the mic. And I remember she was a gangster. She's like, well, I don't know what you guys are talking about. When you come to Salt, the burger we serve is the burger that you have there. That's a Salt burger. Once the burger leaves my kitchen, that's not my burger. And she gave the mic to somebody else, and I died laughing. I was like, okay, so I don't know how.
True.
I don't know how that comment aged in COVID. I don't know.
They still don't do delivery.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I saw, and she was an assassin when she was talking about it.
Yeah.
When she made that statement, she was like very, very clear. She dropped the mic. She's like, once the burger leaves my kitchen, that's not my burger. Crap.
Yeah. I think they tried it. And then, they decided that we don't need this. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that I tell people. Don't seek scalability in ways that you see everybody else scaling and thinking that that's correct. You might have 5 locations and one of them, like, you know that your footprint there is not up to par with the way your brand is going now, but that's your most profitable store. Do you need to go and open in City Walk because everyone's opening in City Walk? Do you need to go open in El Cercal because everybody's opening in El Cercal? Saying that, we're still talking about Salt, who has scaled in the most grandiose of ways, right? So you have them in every country now. They just opened in Beirut. But to me, that's a whole marketing branding thing, by the way. I don't think that was for profit. I'm not saying they're not going to make money there. I'm sure they will. But I see that every decision that they make is very well thought out. And if it works and their P&L is doing amazing and their burger doesn't deliver well, what burger delivers well, by the way? Then don't open up delivery. Let them come to you. Saying that, Kookaroo just opened up delivery.
So, oh, really?
Yeah, and I tried it the other night and it was fabulous. The most expensive delivery you'll ever have, but it was delicious.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. What has changed in last 5-6 years in you?
In Luma.
Yep.
I'm more calm, even though everyone around me would argue that. But my business mindset is more calm. I'm not chasing after everything. And a lot has changed in me in the last year, I would say. And in the last few years, I've learned to drown out the noise, not give in to what everybody else is doing. I think in Dubai, people forget that it is still a very, very, very small and new community, the food community, the homegrown food scene. And at the same time, it's ginormous. So these few people that you hear everybody talking about all the time, they don't even skim the surface as to what a lot of players are really doing out there and what it really means to be a food entrepreneur or a family business. What does it really mean to be a family business? So I learned to drown out the noise, keep my head down, and focus on our growth.
When if you are talking to not only an aspiring restaurateur, but like a small restaurateur today who is having questions like, am I doing it right? And let me just draw that for you. A food entrepreneur, a restaurateur running, let's say, one store, doing it right, doing it well, making decent money, what they should from that one store, but having massive doubts about, everybody is opening locations, everybody's raising funds, people think that my brand is not worth it, or maybe I'm not ambitious enough. And people hear all these kind of things, and entrepreneurs keep hearing these things all the time. If they're not running fast or if they're not scaling to the social standards of scale,
Crazy.
You're an outcast.
Crazy.
What will you say to that entrepreneur today?
What's your goal, right? What's your goal? What do you want? Do you want to exit in 10 years? Do you want to get bought out or get early on investment, raise funds, and open 40 locations? Do you want a franchise? Do you want to have your own mom and pop shop? What do you want? Do you want to be rich? Do you want to struggle for a little bit and then be rich? I mean, you have to decide that, and you should decide it early on, because F&B is not for the weak-hearted, and the scene looks a lot different now and the opportunities that come with being a food opportunist, a food entrepreneur, are very different than 10 years ago when we started, right? We started as a bootstrapped entity, just Haidar and Luma. Now I don't see anyone doing that. And there's nothing wrong with that. We talked about this a little bit when we chatted. That's not wrong. Times are very different than they were 10 years ago. I'm not saying life was cheap 10 years ago or easily managed with children, but now I feel like it is 10 times harder. And I say that as a parent. I wasn't a parent when I started a food truck. We put our savings into it. We paid, 700,000 dirhams all total. And we were a business, khalas, ready to go. Now, if you want to start a cloud brand, I think you have to come in with at least, depends if you go to an existing kitchen or you go into just a space, you have to go in with a couple 100,000, dude. Trade license alone, I think, are 20K now. I don't know.
I don't know the number, but I know the costs are crazy.
So who's going to pay for your DIWA bill during that time?
When you say, you're making a great point that, what's your goal? And especially the exit part, right? Most of the people rarely understand.
What does it mean to want to exit?
And also the fact that you're taking outside investment, you're almost signing the fact that you will have to exit.
Of course.
Right?
And you don't want to pay them for the rest of your life, do you? Yeah, we chose not to do that, right? We knew that we were two very strong and controlling human beings, and that this was solely a love baby, passion baby. And we were willing to put every single thing. I quit my career, to go and be a chef and a cashier and a garbage cleaner on a beach. And I knew what I was getting into. I knew I had a big salary. I killed it those 8 years in Dubai. I killed it. And I was very comfortable. I had an amazing apartment in Marina. I finally made it. That's my definition of made it back then, right? Let's just put it in hindsight, right? If you took investment, it would have been a lot different. I would have been doing strategic decision-making versus cleaning table 3 and 4 on the beach and then moving in at 3 a.m. to the pre-launch of Expo 2020. This was like how many years before? At 2 o'clock in the morning because we were running away from Miras's lease to go take a risk and do our first truck activation because we had a friend that worked at Expo and Haidar put the truck onto his like old school Defender and drove it on the beach and then we cracked it and it would have been a very different scene, right? So that's why my question is, what the hell do you want to do? So going back to the cloud kitchen thing, if you have a food brand and you want to test it, you need to already have a couple $100,000. You need to pay the lease. You need to make sure your checks don't get bounced so you don't get deported. You need at least 2 to 3 staff because your ass is not working 12-hour shifts in 2025. And your Gen Z employees aren't. And you need to have their 12-month salaries and their visas and their health insurance. And you need to pay for your packaging up front, honey, because you're not going to buy cheap packaging in 2025 with no branding. And you already paid the branding manager and you have your social media and your photo shoot. You're already 100,000 down.
Some people will start crying by this point.
I would. I wouldn't do it. I would say, hell no. Because why? To get the system to work and the aggregators to come in and the orders to work, you need about 6 months for it to be a business. If your product is good.
Luma, you said you're drowning out that noise and you're, much calmer. Is it because businesses, you've reached a point where, craziness in the business will, go on, but business is stable and better than ever? Or is this drowning out noise, a decision that you had to take because you were also going through the same curve?
Yeah, as a high performer or an entrepreneur that wants the best for your brand, you're constantly comparing yourself to other people. And you're constantly wondering why this, why that. That's why you have to drown out the noise, because that doesn't matter. That's not even real. What people show you on social media and in their press releases that they paid for, with all due respect, that's what press is for, is the good, right? No one's showing you the ugly at 2 a.m. or at the end of the month when they notice they haven't made profit in 6 months. Okay, so waking up and realizing that shit doesn't matter, and I've been profitable for a very long time, alhamdulillah, mashallah, that's all that matters. I had to wake up and realize that, I had to get a little bit out of my head and be like, this is all BS. What really matters is my P&L and what I do with it. And getting back to the fun. The fun is, let's go back an hour, is that creativity that's all here, that my experience of 20 years has taught me. And that's the DNA of all of our brands. It lives within all of our brands. And if it's not profitable, kill it. Yalla. I launched Spread last year, which is like a high-end, more high-end menus done in a very fun way. Sous vide tomahawk, oysters chucked out of a guy's jacket. Tuna tostadas, made from amazing tuna from my suppliers. And that's all because I had access to all of this from the 9 years of work that I've been doing.
Restaurant business is business as usual, and especially running, 4 or 5 locations can just become mundane. What's the, what keeps the creative juices flowing? What's the most satisfying, part of the business where you feel that you have an unhealthy, dive in sort of if you get an opportunity, you just go there and, do that. What's that? Is it?
I'm a problem solver. So I chase the high of solving a problem. So for the cotija cheese, that's just so interesting, is like working with the supplier to know what's going to make them tick and understand that I will dangle the carrot if I have to leave you to get the better price. Because, I'm screwed right now. That's exciting, right? Menu optimization and engineering. And, like for me, one of the funnest things is reducing 2% on my P&L and proving my husband wrong. But really to answer your question, and this is something I've had to really come to terms with in the last year, is catering and events. I think because we started as a food truck, I think that is ingrained in my soul, I tell you, my friend. And nothing excites me more than closing a deal. So is that catering and events, or is that the sales girl who started when she was 15?
That's best. I mean, from what I'm hearing, I think catering and event, both from closing a deal to bringing the spread in, I think that's like unison of both.
Yeah. But what you do with that is very important. So
that's your playground of cool shit, right?
Oh my gosh, you have no idea. Also, launching hot sauces was really fun. Opening spread was really fun. Even launching Luma's cakes. And we're doing a lot of cool shit now before the end of the year. Some we will announce in the new year. And I can't believe this is my life, kind of cool shit. But at the same time, it's a testament to everything me and Haidar worked on, and the burnout and the hustle and raising the 2 kids in this chaos, our 2 beautiful girls. And we're going to celebrate our 10-year anniversary in a few weeks of being married. And if we're still married,
congratulations.
After this,
then you're strong. Then you're good.
Yeah, none of us have gotten arrested for murder, and we're good. But it's about the power of being able to find out where Haidar shines and where Luma shines, and honing in on that and not letting them cross, respecting each other's boundaries, respecting each other's decision making. That's something that took us a long time. I can't even imagine doing this with someone that I'm not tied to for the rest of my life. It's such an emotional job. And when it's your baby, it's very personal. And it's both of our babies. Like really, really, Maiz is a product of Luma and Haidar, just like Ayla and Amelia. So it is personal. It's personal. Like we did this together, and it's just as much his as it is mine. So that has been testing and trying in all different facets of our world and our ecosystem. Our day to day, our 9 to 9, 6 to 12. Sorry, that's our day.
Yeah.
So I think that for us, it was a matter of the cool shit happening. But one of the coolest things that I look at now, going on to our 10th year, is how organic we've managed to be, because we never strayed away from our whys and our how. Why is as important as how I'm going to get there. And now looking at it, today's the day, actually. I can't believe I'm here, but this is so much fun. We're opening our first central kitchen. Like, are you crazy?
Oh, wow.
Like in a few hours, Sophia is coming, our kitchen supplier, and we're moving in.
Damn,
I have a central kitchen? What? And imagine all the fun that's going to happen there. And imagine, I can't believe I have a central kitchen. Whereas you might talk to your next interview and they're like, yeah, we have 5 central kitchens. We have 30 locations, but we never wanted that. We wanted this. And I can't believe that this is our life. And it's all ours. It's all Haidar and Luma. And we could have failed and would have failed 70 times in the last 10 years. But we would have failed. I wouldn't have to report to Muhammad or Jamal and be like, yo, no, screw that. Let me fail on my own and let me succeed on my own. And now we're succeeding, and the P&L is amazing, and the bottom line, alhamdulillah, mashallah, is great. And it took a long time to get there. I didn't pay myself for 6 years, going from high performer, high net worth.
That is so
messed up. It's so messed up.
No,
don't do it.
That is also so underrated. I mean, it's funny whenever somebody tells me I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to be my own boss. I'm like, oh wow,
do you know
absolutely,
what comes with
you
that?
should try that.
Do you know that you won't get manicures and you won't go on vacation, and you'll see that happening? And if Haidar didn't, thank God he never left his job, right? Because that was our cushion, Imagine if we had kids earlier. Kids, you have to pay tuition in Dubai. It's very expensive, So it all happened the way, what I'm saying, organically, how it was supposed to happen. And not both of you can't quit your job and work on an F&B salary. That can't happen. And you might not get a salary for 6 years, and that's also okay. as long as someone's got your back. Do I recommend that? Would I go back and do the same thing? Hell no. I wouldn't go back and do the same thing.
I mean, but somebody else may follow the same journey if it suits them. I think every journey is different.
If they have a cushioning, yes, they should.
Yeah.
If you have the ability to open, you're making the best goddamn matcha there is out there. There's an amazing place in Seattle doing some crazy stuff, really crazy stuff. I'll send you the name. And the content is unreal, and the owners are unreal. They're still married as well. And they have like 6 shops now. Unreal. Like, I love it. And I hate sweet coffee. I mean, I'm drinking an Americano.
Yeah.
But I know there's a market for it, and she believes in it. And then go out and do every goddamn pop-up in Dubai. Why are you sitting just talking about it? Do you know how much is out there? Do you know it takes you 2,000 dirhams to build a kiosk these days? You don't have to buy a truck. You don't have to do this. I was sitting with my friend who has a great brand, and she's like, Luma, should I buy a truck? And I'm like, hell no. Don't buy a truck.
What do you do to nurture yourself? How do you?
This, I get to meet amazing people and remember why it's all worth it. I don't, unfortunately, have the ability to network as much as I would like to. And I also believe that there is a strategic element to that. I know a lot of people in Dubai do a great job at that, but it is just me and Haidar, and I do have a lot of other things that I need to be doing, but I do see the value in that. But to answer your question, these talks, these coffees, and talking to like-minded people and connecting with them. I just went to the 10-year anniversary of Nola's, which is a brand that I admire and respect, and Faye and her brother, what
Faye
they have done.
Faye is amazing. I love her and Nola. Like, when you were saying JLT, Maiz, first visual I had was Nola, because that was my first favorite spot that I discovered many years back.
How many memories do you have at those places? And look at her. She has only 3 other locations.
Yeah.
And she's good.
And and
Nola's is like this. Every single weekend and night, you can't find reservations. You think it's like the idea of your local pub, right? Because it's local community, JLT.
Yeah, it feels like a neighborhood.
Well, that's the point. But I think it fits like hundreds of people. I was sitting in the outdoor area in a corner, and I was like, holy crap, I never noticed how huge this place is in the winter. And
no, shout out to Faye. I mean,
they're killing it.
She's also the one, who owns that piece of business in such a way that, she's very clear that, we don't need a lot of locations. We make money, we make profits.
And they're making good money, right?
Yeah.
They're doing, 100%. Mashallah, amazing. And that's the whole point, is what you see there is not necessarily correct. And if you were listening to this and you want to get into F&B, study what you should be studying, but don't believe that there's only one right way of doing it, because I can assure you that's not true.
Do you read? What do you do to unwind or to, nurture yourself where you know that you are investing in your growth? Is there a ritual? Is there something that you do?
No, I'm not going to give you some BS answer and tell you I have it all figured out.
Please look at the camera and tell people wake up at 5 a.m. or something like that.
Meditate, do yoga, put yourself first. Oh my God, I'm so tired of that. It's not true. And if it is, call me and I'll hire you to make that work for me, please. God bless you. No, I learn now that I work when my kids are not around. So I wake up early. I do try to do fitness and move. And that makes me so happy when I can do it. Is it something I can do daily? Unfortunately, no. But clearing my mind before the kids are here has been the most freeing sense in so many different aspects for me. So if I pick up the kids at 3, for example, knowing I have 4 hours of uninterrupted chaos, of love and growth and memories with my little girls, they're so little, that is the most love I can give myself, because I have freed up my life for my children, which is something I wasn't able to do when they were born, and learn how that is possible. Cooking is my number one medicine. I had a bad day. The other day, the girls went to the park and I was just beating myself up because I wasn't performing. I'll just call it that. Performing. That's what I do. I perform for this and this and this and this. So I got up and I was not in a nice place. I was just sitting there like, ugh, in my mind doing something, but really upset at myself. And I got up, I cook for my kids, so I don't have any help with that, or I have an amazing nanny, but just for babysitting in the house. And I went in the kitchen and I made them 2 meals. So I meal prep for them so that my kids are obsessed now with only Arabi food. So every day for lunch, I send them Arabi food. So imagine how much food I have to cook all the time, right? For 2 kids that go to 2 different schools and need 2 different snack boxes and lunch ideas. So I went in there and I made like this Dawood Basha dish. And I also made, I think, bamia, which is okra. And I messaged my best friend, Haya, who I was talking to and beating myself an hour. I cook very fast, by the way. And I was like, Haya, I feel so good. Oh my God, I feel so good. I'm going to go out on a walk. Imagine like where I was. If that's not medicine, I don't know what is.
That is amazing.
Yeah, wallah, I'm being honest. This was, and I messaged my mom. She was in Amman. And I was like, Mom, like, can we remind each other of these moments? And lastly, surrounding myself with people that I know love me so much and respect me. You know, to love me is to know me, but it's to respect me. I promise I don't mean to not answer your WhatsApp. I promise that, you know, I know you see me hustling and whatever, but I still have 2 girls at home and my mom lives here and my brother's here. But the time you give me and the love you show me is so highly appreciated. You know, like if it means seeing my best friend of 15 years, yesterday we went out to check out a new restaurant only once a month. That to me is so valued, and there's so much buzz around it and so much excitement because the reward for me is going to last me for a whole month. So those are the things that really move me. I could say something cheesy like a great vacation, but
no, I think we'll live with what you said.
Okay,
I mean,
thanks.
that's more powerful than anything else.
It's the truth.
Luma, this is a conversation that I don't think I would want to end, and
Yeah,
I don't
same.
think, and I don't think it will end if we don't bring this to close. But that's some cool shit that I did today.
Me too.
You know, more power to you. I see so many things that are going well for you
Oh, thank you.
because, you know, there are so many things that you do right, and you're doing it from the heart. You know, it's an absolute honor to meet entrepreneurs in F&B who really, really are doing it for what exactly it should be done.
Thanks, man.
So
That's awesome.
Thank
That's
you.
the best compliment you can give me. Thank you.
No, that is absolutely sincere. You can see all my other podcasts.
I did. I've seen a lot of
I
them.
don't give them easy.
Oh. Well, this has felt more like a conversation with a friend who understands it versus like being invited to a podcast. And I don't do much of this. So I just want to say thank you. And for always, I was watching a lot of your shows and you know, you ask the right questions and you know the industry so much. I know because you've been in it, but thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you.